Hi, this is Mike Tundermann again with my mentor, Colin McDonald, and we are here to debrief on video 4 for my clinical practice, which is focused on InTASC Standards 6, 7, and 8. So generally speaking, Colin, I think the class, in terms of instructional strategies, using formative assessments that are scaffolding towards the summative assessments that I listed in my plan, generally were met pretty well. Highlights I would focus on, I think, were varying the instructional strategies. So as I mentioned in my video annotations, I felt pretty good and confident really to seg from, like, let's say deductive to inductive, student-centered, segging back to like me to like confirm and calibrate them accordingly, introducing like student-centered practice, and then again bringing it back to a teacher-centered role, and also, and it's just natural to me, like pacing around, monitoring progress, where I felt like I could adjust my role very easily at this point in my career of like instruction role, co-participant, et cetera, et cetera. One, and this is a common problem I've had, is, again, I wasn't able to get to my highlights form of assessment, which was the so-called gallery walk. We did do that in the next period, but that, like so many times, was not allowed to surface in this lesson plan because there's certain individuals in my class who are really active, really trying to participate, and I'm still trying to find strategies to kind of like regulate that, for lack of a better word. But yeah, overall for 6, 7, 8, I think it was pretty good.
Okay, so let's actually start with what you were just talking about with the negatives of the class, not getting to the gallery walk.
Yeah.
So do you think that there are any instructional strategies that you can use to help mitigate the time taken from your class by certain students? You mentioned to me before that some of them have questions about their questions, right?
Yes.
They have so many questions that it does at times derail the class. So is there anything that you could do to mitigate that a little bit?
Yeah. I feel like I need to better set expectations, establish more clear-cut routines for when, how, and through what means they can submit questions or suggestions, things like that. So one thing I have in mind is, and this kind of follows an idea you gave me for like videos 2 or 3, like more kinesthetic A4 whiteboard usage. So right now, and you saw it in my video where, like, okay, here's an idea, write your ideas, 30 seconds, go, come back, quickly recap it. All right, here's another one, 30 seconds, go, write down. So maybe like using the A4 medium to maybe allow certain individuals to like, okay, well, tell you what, I know you have lots of questions, write those down, and we're gonna come back to those. Just make sure you have them written down. I think that would still allow the student to not be disciplined, but in a more positive environment or in a more positive way to still have their voice heard, those questions down that we could then come to later.
Yeah, you definitely don't want to shut down the questions,
of course
because
not,
that's a very positive thing to have in the class. But you definitely don't want it taking up such a large amount of time that it does push activities to the next class.
Yeah.
So that's something to think about in the future, and you've already started to think about it, but I'm sure we'll discuss that more in terms of what kind of activities you can use.
Yeah.
So let's actually get to the standards for this lesson though. Standards 6, 7, and 8. So that is assessment, that is planning for instruction, and that is instructional strategy. So let's start with your assessment here. So in terms of the assessment for your class, one thing that I was happy to see was that you did have a lot of varied kinds of assessment in this class. It wasn't the same over and over and over, and you've been getting better at that as the videos have went on and as weeks have passed. In terms of the class dynamic, like I feel like the assessments that you're doing are helping to create a more robust and a more just positive overall dynamic in the class. Do you have any thoughts about maybe which assessment has been the most effective in terms of allowing you to not only see what students are doing and how much they know, but also in terms of creating that positive atmosphere for the class?
Which one would be most effective? Yeah, that's a really good question. Well, in terms of like the easiest, like most, it's a kind of assessment you could drop in any moment. Of course, like my thumbs thing, right? To quickly check like comprehension, comfort level with like the data or like whatever's happening at the time. That's always worked very well. And I always implore kids to be honest with that feedback. A lot of them will joke around and like do this kind of thing. In terms of like more substantive formative assessments, right? Formative assessments.
Yeah, formative or
well, I found that allowing like pair group work, not to say I overdo the think pair share one, but that has been pretty positive and popular amongst the students. So something kind of like in that domain, just again, trying to change up the medium of communication. So like, yeah, as you saw in my video 4, the A4 whiteboard usage was more heavy than perhaps previous videos we saw. But yeah, I mean, overall, I really like my students working together in pairs or groups, reducing lecture talk or teacher talking time, where they can come up with some ideas and then feed it back somehow. So yeah, I would say that's
fantastic.
it. Yeah.
Okay, so in terms of assessment, are there any assessments that you used in this class that you feel like are very good for showing evidence-based assessment?
In terms of formative assessments or
formative or summative?
For this class or for any class? Sorry.
for this one.
For this one. Yeah, so I have what's called the Guanghua notebook, which was a method I adopted from a previous teacher here, where they have certain tasks to do that I tell them on my PowerPoint slide, mark your, put this title to top and complete the task in your notebook. That kind of builds a ongoing record of like their command of language, their command of vocab, grammar, things like that. So that's a pretty ongoing channel for that, for data and evidence, yeah.
Fantastic. And in terms of just stimulating discussion and making sure that students have their voice heard and they can be assessed properly, I did feel like in this class in particular, that was much stronger than previously.
Okay.
I found that the students were reacting very positively, and there was a lot of talk in the classroom, but all of it seemed to be effective towards instruction. There was no students that were, out of line, I guess. There were no students that were
I would agree,
just not doing what they should, which is excellent. And that's kind of a testament to the classroom management skills that you've been building up over the past couple weeks, and just the organization that your assessment has come to follow. So overall, I feel like this lesson was probably the best so far, and let's keep making them better, and really focusing on those clinical. Sorry, I'm losing the word.
InTASC standards or
InTASC standards. Yeah, because I feel like when you're very clearly following the standards, I mean, you could see this in class, there was a lot more success. So we'll continue to work on that. We'll continue to build on that. And I'm looking forward to the next one.
Okay, absolutely. Great. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.